wonderful to be here in the town of Bourne, surrounded by so many wonderful people. These include, of course, our federal delegation and champions in Washington, Senator Warren, Senator Markey, Congressman Keating, our legislative partners, including Senator Moran, Rep. Zaros, Rep. Flanagan, Rep. Fernandez, Rep. Vieira, Rep. Peake, Rep. Diggs, Senator Sear. We have Sheriff Buckley, among others, who are here today. It really is a team effort. And we're joined by our members of our team, our Administration Secretary of Transportation, Monica Tibbetts-Nutt, our Highway Administrator, Jonathan Gulliver, and members of his team, Director Quentin Palfrey of our Federal Funds and Infrastructure Office, town and county officials from across Cape Cod, our business community, including the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce CEO Paul Niedzwiecki, and organized labor, including Frank Callahan of the Massachusetts Building Trades Unions. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, our hosts, are here today, and they are our partner on this project. So we're here today to celebrate what is really a historic win for Massachusetts and for the Cape. We're really, really excited about the news that we're able to deliver. And the news is that for the first time, the people of Cape Cod are going to get what they deserve when it comes to these bridges. We know that these bridges have been in a state of disrepair for a long time. And when we started in office 18 months ago, we made a promise that we were going to get after it and get busy and work with our federal delegation, work with our partners to secure funding to build new bridges. And today we're here to announce that just the other day we won a nearly $1 billion grant, federal grant for the Cape Cod bridges. This brings our total federal funding for these bridges to date so far in the last 18 months to $1.72 billion.
Oh, yeah.
And we add to that the nearly $700 million in state funding that we've committed, and we can say with certainty now that we have the funding that we need to move forward. We're going to rebuild the Sagamore Bridge, and we're going to continue to work for every dollar available to rebuild the Bourne Bridge.
Yeah.
And with this, we are going to bring better transportation, more economic opportunity, and better quality of life to the Cape and Massachusetts. We're really, really excited about it. It is a big, big deal. It is a turning point, truly, in terms of sustained investments in an infrastructure whose benefits will be felt for generations, and it's a victory that we celebrate today. When we took office, we made federal funding a priority. We set up a new office for federal funds and infrastructure to work across my administration and to work with local communities to create the smartest, the strongest, the best applications that we could for federal funds. The bipartisan infrastructure law offered us a new opportunity. This is a very competitive process, we know, and every state in the union has bridges that need repair. So we had to do this well, we had to do this right, we had to be very strategic, and we had to work local, state, and federal to get this done. And that's what we did, empowered by experts in our agencies at DOT, working alongside others. We brought everybody's skills and experience to bear, working as a team inside and outside of the administration. And today we are delivering on the funds, and we're now going to work together to deliver on the results. We know that the bridges that rise here over Cape Cod will be safe, they will be modern, they'll be attractive and environmentally friendly. They're going to improve traffic flow. And we're going to make sure that the traffic keeps moving throughout this entire construction by keeping the current Sagamore Bridge open. They'll move forward in tandem with our plans for electric vehicle charging and public transit options as well. They'll have multi-use paths for cyclists, walkers, and wheelchairs. And importantly, they're going to create jobs and business opportunities for residents across the Cape and the region. The construction of these bridges alone will create more than 9,000 high-quality jobs. Jobs. And these jobs are going to work under a project labor agreement with our labor unions.
Yes.
What that means is we're going to get fair wages, safe working conditions, equitable access, and training for local diverse workers. There are young people in these regions' schools right now who will one day start great careers on this project, from construction to design to engineering and beyond. We're going to do what it takes to make sure they're well prepared for these careers. These bridges are going to be an opportunity for folks across the Cape, southeastern Massachusetts, and really the entire state. This is a beautiful, beautiful part of our state. But we also know it is truly a gateway, and a gateway over which you have to cross water. And so that's why it's so important that these bridges be built, and they're going to be here for generations to come. I again want to thank members of our team, specifically the team in DOT. I asked them a year and a half ago to get busy, to roll up their sleeves. We had submitted, apparently, applications in the past that were not met with success. So we knew we had to do a different strategy and approach it differently. And I just really want to thank Highway Administrator Jonathan Gulliver and members of his team for the work they did with others to get these applications in. And I want to thank members of our congressional delegation, Senators Markey, Warren, and Congressman Keating, who were champions in D.C. Every step of the way in terms of advocacy and leaning on the administration to get this done. And finally, I want to thank the Biden administration for the historic investments made here. We benefited in just the last year and a half alone from over $6 billion in investments coming back to Massachusetts from the Biden administration through important pieces of legislation championed by our champions here. And I now want to bring forward Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Beautiful.
Oh, it is a good day to talk about $1 billion coming to our bridges here on the Cape. I'm ready to celebrate. Thank you, Governor Healey. Thank you to everyone who is here today, who played a critical part in our getting this big chunk of infrastructure investment for our bridges. 2 years ago, we had $0 to replace these bridges. Today, we have $1.7 billion from the federal government and a commitment for another $700 million committed from the Commonwealth. We have the money to build our first bridge and to start on our second.
Beautiful.
Now, it's always fun to get together and celebrate, but I just want to make one more point. This money didn't fall out of the sky. It took two pieces to make it happen. The first is we had to find a way to make this money available in Washington, D.C. For years, there has been virtually no money in Washington for big infrastructure projects. In fact, for those of you who watch everything from the political broadsheets all the way to late night television, you will understand that the words Infrastructure Week had become the butt of a joke over and over and over because we were not putting the money in, the commitment in at the federal level for the big projects that we need. Joe Biden and the Democrats put the money in so that we can rebuild infrastructure right here on the Cape and all across this country. And that funding will fund many bridges, many projects, but there's also enough money there, as we see today, for the really big projects. And that's why we're here today to celebrate about $1 billion in funding for this project. So that's part one. You got to get the money up and ready. Part two on this is then the race is afoot to get that money into Massachusetts, because there are 49 other states looking for that same money. And it was up to us to get it here and to get it to that project, the bridges. I cannot say enough good things about the Healey team. The governor and everybody on the governor's team first got focused. They weren't talking about 10 different projects and maybe here and maybe later. It was, let's get money to this bridge and let's get it to this bridge now. And they did every single thing we needed in order to increase the chances the money would come here to Massachusetts. And that meant lots of phone calls, it meant rewriting proposals, it meant trying to find out from federal officials exactly what they were looking for, any concerns they had about the proposals that we had put in over and over and over. I know that I spoke with the governor sometimes multiple times a day. So much so that often when I would call the governor, she would pick it up with, how are our bridges? It wasn't even a hello, because that was the focus, to get our proposal, get it right, and get it out. A second half to that is my partner, a terrific partner, Senator Markey and Congressman Keating. We worked it from the other end. We worked every part of Washington we could. We talked to our colleagues, we talked to everybody in the White House, and we brought in the local folks who have to live with an out-of-date bridge, and it was fantastic. I want to say a big thank you to every single person who showed up when we did a hearing to explain to the White House exactly why it is that we need a new bridge, what it means to have a bridge, that you have to worry whether or not emergency vehicles can make it across, that you are about to schedule a doctor's appointment on the other side and maybe it'll take you 15 minutes to get there, or maybe it'll take you 2 hours and 15 minutes to get there, about what it means to be divided from your children, but to drive home the urgency, not of a project somewhere else, but a project right here on the Cape. And they did a terrific report, terrific job. We also put out a report. They helped us with the report, got us the data we needed. And I'm just grateful, because this is a reminder that if you want to do something big, you need a team working it from every angle. And that is what we had here. We made the case in Washington, D.C., and now we have locked up $1.7 billion to build these bridges here in Massachusetts. This is a funding home run, and I am thrilled to be here to celebrate with everyone, and thrilled to renew this partnership, to know that we are all going to stay in it until we get these bridges built. Going to do it. Thank you. And with that, I introduce the best possible partner in the United States Senate, my partner, Ed Markey.
Well, beautiful. Thank you,
There he is.
Elizabeth.
You bet.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And Elizabeth is right. We had the greatest team ever assembled in order to be victorious here today. Elizabeth and I have made this a project in the Senate right from day one of the Biden administration. When Pete Buttigieg came up for his confirmation, my first question to him was the Sagamore and the Bourne bridges, over and over to him at his confirmation hearing. So Senator Warren and I and Congressman Keating, we've had the full court press that we have applied, which is something that Governor Healey totally understands and subscribes to as a political philosophy, as well as a basketball philosophy. So that's what we're celebrating here today, this incredible teamwork. We congratulate you, Governor, and your team. Quentin is here, and everyone else from your administration, all of the great community leaders across the Cape who have been insistent, persistent, consistent in their demands that we work on this project and that we deliver for Cape Cod. So this is an historic day for the region, a celebration which is years in the making. It is Christmas in July on Cape Cod as we deliver $1 billion to the Sagamore Bridge and the Cape Cod community. Who wants to be a billionaire? Sagamore Bridge. That is what we are celebrating here today. Just an incredible victory. And it is the largest single bridge grant to a single state in the history of the United States. and the single largest competitive grant Massachusetts has received from the federal government. So congratulations, Governor, and again, Senator Warren and I, Congressman Keating, we just love partnering with you. In total, our delegation has secured $1.7 billion in federal funding so far to replace the Cape Cod bridges. That's nearly 80% of the total cost to replace the Sagamore. And over a decade of work has delivered us to this moment. The funding has landed. Thanks to dozens and dozens of meetings, countless letters, close partnerships with the Biden administration and the Army Corps of Engineers, we will ensure that residents and visitors can access the beauty, the opportunity, and the community of Cape Cod and the islands for generations to come. This funding is truly a bridge to a safer, greener, brighter, and more prosperous future for the Cape. Grants like these are a team effort. As Massachusetts knows, championships don't rest on one person alone. Winning teams are partnerships. Brady and Belichick, Tatum and Brown, Ortiz and Ramirez. And as we raise today's banner to the rafters, I could not be happier than to have a Hall of Famers like Warren, Healey, and Keating on my team. If only we could ride the duck boats down the canal to celebrate this incredible victory today. $1.7 billion in funding for the bridges is a testament to the power of all levels of government working together to provide real, concrete benefits to the people of Massachusetts. It builds on a remarkable streak of investments by the Biden-Harris administration in the biggest infrastructure bill in generations, $335 million for Alston multimodal project, $150 million for battery electric buses for the MBTA, and $108 million for West-East Rail. We continue to work in partnership, our congressional delegation with the governor, and we continue to be successful. We worked hard to put the funding into the infrastructure bill that Massachusetts would benefit from. And we were thinking of people like Erin Perry of the Cape Cod Commission. She and her family live here in Bourne on the Cape side of the canal, but her husband works on the mainland. And her daughters go to the Bourne schools on both sides of the bridges. Erin's family uses the Sagamore nearly every day to arrive at work and school on time, to get to doctor's appointments, and to see family. This bridge is a lifeline to her family and for countless others on the Cape. The Bourne and the Sagamore are the gateway to the region for millions of visitors and the only major escape route in case of disaster. These bridges carry our Commonwealth, and we need to make sure that they're strong and resilient, just like Massachusetts families they support every single day. And we know that these modern bridges need funding, and without question, a vision without funding is an hallucination. And $1 billion is arriving today. It's not a hallucination, it's reality. The Bourne Bridge will be replaced. We will have a brand new Bourne and Sagamore here. It begins with the Sagamore, and then tomorrow we begin to work on the funding for the Bourne as well. Right after we passed the infrastructure law, I stood here with many of the leaders, and we today are leading and delivering for the people of Cape Cod. We got to work. We wrote the legislation, and we provided the necessary funding. We heard from the roundtables, as Senator Warren said. We heard from Cape leaders about replacing these bridges, how important it is. We brought federal officials to the Cape, advocated to Congress, met with the White House, talked to them over and over again how important this is. We spanned our differences, we built coalitions, and linked the state with the federal resources it needs. That is what we are celebrating here today on Cape Cod. And one other thing, Frank Callahan is here from the building trades. We're going to do this with union labor. It is going to be one of the largest union projects in Massachusetts history. So this is a great day. We're going to celebrate today, and then we're going to go back and continue to work with the governor to get an even larger part of the disproportionate funding that she desires for the state. So let me just stop here and just introduce somebody who has been the relentless partner of Senator Warren and I in fighting for the funding for the Sagamore Bridge. Let me give you Congressman Bill Keating.
Well, thank you. I want to thank my colleagues, Senator Warren, Senator Markey. I want to thank Governor Healey and your administration. I want to thank an extraordinary legislative delegation at the state level, state senators, state representatives that are here, county officials, and all the local officials, particularly those local officials in the town of Bourne that are going to be the site of both of these bridges, all working together. It was an extraordinary effort. When I first was elected 14 years ago, this was a prime initiative that we were talking about. We weren't talking about replacement at that time, but it was the year in and year out, just trying to maintain the bridges as they were, and we all lived through that. All the time we wanted to see the day when the right decision was made, not to just put Band-Aids on crumbling bridges, but to have brand new replacement bridges. That day is today. I look back at my childhood when we would come here on vacation and we'd go up the old Route 6, and you'd start to feel a little bit of the magic of Cape Cod as you approached Wareham, and you would see the cranberry glass and souvenir shops that were there, and we would be approaching the bridge. When we got to the bridge, I was only hoping that when I got in our car, I had picked the right window seat so that if a vessel was coming through the bridge, I'd be able to see it as it passed. And the excitement I had, even as a child, knowing that the other side of that bridge, there would be dinners of fried clams, homemade ice cream, and beaches on the other side. And I knew at that time in my life that it was more than a bridge. And what we're celebrating today is more than a bridge. This is more than a bridge. It's a workforce provider. 50% of the Cape's workforce comes from the other side of this bridge to work here, to the 10,000 businesses that depend and flourish on that happening. It's an entryway. It's more than a bridge. It's an entryway to probably one of the best destinations, to over 4 million people a year that come to see the National Seashore, and the people that go to visit the Monomoy, Mashpee wildlife refuges that are there as well. It's more than a bridge. It's a revenue generator where $14.4 billion in gross regional product comes to help fuel the services we need at the local, state, and federal level. It's more than a bridge. It's a gateway to the 5.5 million people a year that come here as tourists to fuel that economy. It's more than a bridge. It's a job creator. The construction itself will create over $9,000 of good, well-paid union jobs that'll make sure the job is done well, and it makes sure the job is done on time. It's more than a bridge to the people of Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. It's an accessor road. It's necessary for them to be able to get the ferries and the regional airports, to get them back and forth, get the tourists there, get their businesses going, and provide a lifeline. It's more than a bridge for the new burgeoning blue economy, with its scientists, with its engineers, with its researchers, all on this side of the bridge, bringing one of the fastest growing economies forward. But for people like myself, not only someone that represents this area in Congress, but someone who lives here, someone who lives in the town of Bourne, someone who lives in a town where the canal divides that town, and the bridge is extremely necessary, if not almost existential, in terms of the issues that are paramount to any community. Those are healthcare issues. The staffing of our hospitals and community health centers are reliant on that. The extension of services off Cape for healthcare needs are reliant on that. Our local schools are staffed with teachers and principals and staff people that work there to educate our children that depend on that bridge being there. Joint Base Cape Cod for our national security is at the other end of these bridges and is necessary to have that kind of emergency route available. We are going to be facing national disasters come this fall. The predictions because of climate change are onerous. But one thing we know, we'll have access to the resources we need for those national disaster relief efforts because these bridges are here. And finally, as someone who lives here as well, it's important for the way of life, the quality of life, and family life. 40% of the people on Cape Cod are over 60 years of age. Almost all of their extended family is off the Cape. If they're going to have a quality of family life, just like anyone else, to make sure that access is there back and forth to their family so they can share those treasures of moments of grandchildren's birth, of the sadder moments when people are ill and families have to come and help their mother or their father or their grandparents. Those things are real life. And that's what I think of when I look at this project. Sure, it's a great bridge. Sure, it's an expensive bridge. There aren't many more expensive. But it's much more than that. It's necessary to our way of life, our quality of life, and for generations to come. So it's a day of celebration on something that is a great bridge, but something much more. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Congressman Keating. And again, I want to thank our federal partners. I don't know how many times Senator Warren and I were on the phone. A lot of trips to D.C., meetings with OMB, the Army Corps, DOT. Thank you to Secretary Buttigieg, the White House directly, and that's the kind of work it took from our end. I also want to thank our DOT team. Jonathan Gulliver, come up here for a second. This is our highway administrator. I want you to just shout out the folks on the DOT team who helped.
Thank you. Brian Cordero, our project manager, is over here with us. Kerry LaValle, our chief engineer, who has provided great leadership to our technical team. Additionally, Michael O'Dowd, who couldn't be here today, runs our major projects unit. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our district office, led by Mary Jo Perry, who's here with us. And then, of course, our great consultant team on this is HNTB, Gary Bua and David Anderson, who have been doing just phenomenal work progressing this project.
Terrific. Great. Many thanks, because work has continued even while we were applying for these funds with respect to environmental work, permitting work, and the like. And to that end, I just want to shout out our local officials. My dad's a selectman. I know how hard that is. We're going to need your partnership in the time ahead, because we want to do this. We want to do this right. We want to do this in community. We are going to be using union labor, and we want it to work for the residents of these communities. Okay? So I know we'll continue to be at the table as we work to get shovels in the ground by 2027, if not sooner. And finally, I want to thank my colleagues in the state legislature. We came in with a plan, not only for a federal funds office, but actually also to request funding so that we could use state funding to help match and support our federal applications. We have seen that work thanks to the legislature time and time again, whether it was landing, ARPA-H, the Microelectronics Commons Hub, all of the funding that's come through, whether it's for the Inflation Reduction Act or the bipartisan infrastructure law, Solar for All most recently. So I just want to thank members of the legislature because, they're hard at work for their constituents and for their communities, and we see the benefit come to fruition in what we're able to collectively as one team, Team Massachusetts, announce today. With that, we're happy to take questions on the topic of the bridges.
Can you speak to the timeline of construction, when it will begin and when it's anticipated to end?
Sure. And I'll ask the highway administrator to add here. But basically, I want you to know that our team did not stop. Even while we were applying for the funds, we proceeded on a parallel path for permitting, for design, doing that work. A lot of it has already been done. We now begin what's called the design build phase of this, and we're looking to have shovels in the ground by no later than 2027. Administrator, anything else you want to add?
8 to 10 year construction period. And we're going to look to fine tune that and narrow that down over the next couple of years as we go into procurement.
Governor,
thank you.
Are you worried about if there's a change in administration in November that it could impact the funding for the Mill Bridge?
I'm just focused on doing what I know has been the recipe for success here and replicating that. It's going to be continued teamwork. It's going to be continued partnership. It's, putting our best foot forward. I have every interest in moving this along as quickly as possible, and I know that's the interest of everybody here in the Bourne community and across Cape Cod. So that's going to be our focus. We're going to be laser focused now, pedal to the metal on the next stages of this and moving from Sagamore to the Bourne Bridge. We made a calculation at the beginning that we weren't going to do and repeat the way things have been done in the past in terms of these applications, and that's why we made a decision to chase one and then chase another. We secured this, and tomorrow we get after the Bourne Bridge, and we'll be working steadily, all of us collectively, on bringing that home.
The 9,000 jobs, is that just for reconstruction of this bridge, or that?
Yeah, it's everything, I think.
Yeah, I think it's everything.
Yeah. It's both bridges. But initially, we're going to be building one at a time. So,
Contractors, manufacturers, suppliers.
Yep. The whole gamut, right, as Jonathan says, contractors, manufacturers, suppliers. That's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And we're an administration, we're a team committed to good paying jobs, committed to finding ways to work with our labor teams. And I'm really proud that this agreement locks that in with a PLA that's going to mean great jobs, great careers for 9,000 families. It's also an opportunity for us to highlight some of what we've also been doing as administration. More vocational seats, more career training in our high schools, more vocational training in our high schools and beyond. Free community college to those 25 and older. Again, thank you to the legislature. All these things are going to go into the personnel and the workforce needed to drive this project home. So I think it's going to be really great for all of Massachusetts.
Governor, what do you think will be the funding source for money for the rest of the Sagamore Bridge so we can stay on that timeline?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be similar to what we've done here, any and all of the above, right? I mean, thanks to the work of our congressional team, we secured this recent award. There's some state funds involved. We've also had funding planned through our capital investment program, so we've committed $700 million through that, and that will continue in 2 5-year periods as over the next 5 to 10 years. So, those are the things that we're looking at.
Is it $2.1 billion the total cost?
2.133.
Yes.
And we have 2.4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So there is currently no money allocated for the Bourne Bridge yet. That's what the next application process is going to be.
Just design right now, design and permitting.
Yeah. You want to speak to that? Go ahead.
Yeah. So as the governor said, we've been progressing with the entire program, including the Bourne design and permitting. So that is still progressing right now. So that part is funded. The construction money, we just put in a grant earlier this summer that we're hoping is going to get the same type of positive feedback that this one got. So this is a design build job, which means we'll bring it up to about 25%. That effort's been ongoing for design and permitting. That's the phase we're in now. We will go to procurement to bring on a design build team that'll bring it over the finish line in early 2026.
Last question.
I'm sorry, what was the question? It'll be just on the inside of the existing bridge, interior to the canal.
Anything else you want to add?
Can't hear.
Great. That's certainly an important part of this, and one of the things that the Biden administration has been clear about is that we find ways to not only best put to use the federal funds that we're given, but we do things in a way that supports good labor conditions and working conditions, that supports opportunities to diversify the field. That's important. And to do things, as you've seen throughout the last year on a number of awards that we've received, to do things in a way that addresses our climate challenges. So all of that, including what you raised, is going to be accomplished through this. Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all
Thank
so much.
you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Well done.
Great
Okay.
That story, he was a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful.